This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about Cardano finally finding a use case. Cardano, of course, one of the top 10 cryptocurrencies in the world, though barely clinging to the top 10 as we speak, currently ranked number 10 and ranked below Doge and Tron, which is a little bit embarrassing. There's some interesting trivia about the Cardano logo that John Carvalho points out here. Did you know that the Cardano logo was made to look like an anus? The designer wanted to capture the shitcoin essence and show exactly where users will feel it when they get wrecked. And once seen, it's impossible to unsee what the Cardano logo looks like. This is Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano. We've spoken in the past about him in this book, Out of the Ether, The Amazing Story of Ethereum by Matthew Leising. And as shown here in Google Books, they say some fairly not nice things about him that I wanted to read briefly here. I'm not sure this is true, but this story is printed in Out of the Ether. Charles Hoskinson would prove to be much more problematic for the group, however. He was described to me by the people he worked with at the time as a pathological liar, a sociopath, and as someone not to trust in the company of your girlfriend. In his early 20s, in 2014, he was one of the youngest co-founders of Ethereum as well. He wore a thick beard and glasses and dressed in a way that made you think he was much older than he was. For the first several months that Joe Lubin knew Charles, he assumed he was in his mid-30s. Charles would talk about Creedence Clearwater Revival concerts in the 1970s as though he'd been there, but it went much further than that. To convince people that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, he'd show emails that he claimed proved he'd invented Bitcoin, and a few of the people around became convinced. He told more offbeat stories too, like how he got his limp by mistiming a jump out of an Apache helicopter in Afghanistan. He claimed to be associated with the CIA, or sometimes he hinted of his links to DARPA, the super-secret U.S. government weapons development agency. He often kept his passport in the front pocket of his shirt. It soon became clear to Vitalik, even to Vitalik, that Charles was a liability. I'll also link to this video I made a few years ago about Cardano doing social credit scores for kids, as well as Cal Casa's article, Shitcoin Millionaire, talking about at least how he believes that Charles Hoskinson has been scamming Ethiopia back in 2021. So it turns out that Charles Hoskinson used to really dislike Bitcoin. He's had an amazing change of heart, but let's listen to what he said a few years ago. This is a recording from a few years ago, even though this post is from June of 2025.
I can't for the life of me understand what the hell is the point of Bitcoin. When I joined the Bitcoin space way back in the day, it was, hey, we hate the dollar, and hey, we like gold a lot. Let's create digital gold. Let's build a payment system. And then it just kind of went all these different directions, and nobody can actually tell you what Bitcoin is for. It's a store of value, okay. There's some proof of work thing where maybe you're like incentivizing alternative energy to be produced. I don't know. It's like nobody really knows the philosophy. There's no direction. And they say, but don't worry, just buy and hold.
So that's what Charles Hoskinson used to think about Bitcoin, but it appears as Cardano has continued to plummet against Bitcoin that he's had a change of heart, and now Cardano, according to this post, Cardano is planning to buy Bitcoin with its $1.2 billion treasury. Charles Hoskinson proposes converting some ADA, some Cardano in the Cardano treasury, into Bitcoin and stablecoins, probably US dollar stablecoins, and then use the yield to buy back Cardano, to buy back ADA. This could be crypto's first real sovereign wealth fund. Well, let's hear what Charles has to say about this.
I do believe that it will not materially impact Cardano by doing a conversion of 5 to 10%.
In other words, by dumping 5 to 10% of Cardano into Bitcoin. He doesn't think this would change the exchange rate between Cardano and Bitcoin.
Treasury into stable assets and assets like Bitcoin. And in doing this, we can create a yield, and that yield on an annual basis can be used to purchase ADA and over time replenish the treasury. And if this program is successful, then we can actually continue that strategy on an annualized basis, and over a period of 5 to 10 years, potentially grow to a $1 billion plus stablecoin treasury and Bitcoin treasury to augment and enhance the ADA value in the treasury that we have. This sets us up for great returns and for a pretty stable floor for the ecosystem as a whole, like you would want.
So the good news is Charles Hoskinson seems to have finally found a use case for Cardano. You dump it for Bitcoin. After years of telling people that Cardano was going to flip or flip in Bitcoin, which means that it would trade at a larger market cap than Bitcoin's market cap, after years of telling people this, we now have Charles Hoskinson proposing to dump ADA for Bitcoin, which is not exactly how you flip in Bitcoin. Someone should point that out to him. But it's really hilarious when you think about it. You take some of the Cardano that the Cardano Foundation printed up for free for itself in that huge premine. You dump some of it for Bitcoin and stablecoins like USDT. You'll end up earning something like 4 to 5% on your USDT, perhaps if you stake it out somewhere, while you watch the underlying currency, the underlying US dollar, lose 8 to 10% per year in purchasing power. So that's a net annual loss of 4 to 5% on your investment. So this is actually not going to help to build up the Cardano treasury, but it's going to help to wreck it because he's going to be adding these melting ice cubes to it. Also, he's going to earn some Bitcoin, some yield on the Bitcoin that he gets by dumping his Cardano. He's going to lend it out and pray that he doesn't get rugged. So this is a bizarre strategy, but it is definitely proof. And the fact that Cardano holders are so excited about this, it's definitely proof that Cardano holders are some of the dumbest and saddest people around, as Hoskinson continues to fleece them year after year after year, in my opinion. If we take a look at the premine that Cardano had, 17% of it was printed up and went to team, company, and VC tokens. And of course, Charles Hoskinson took a huge chunk for himself and has been dumping it on people who don't understand that it's garbage. And he's used it to buy a couple ranches and to buy private jets as well. This article claims that Hoskinson's private jet usage and pollution actually tops that of the Kardashian family and Mark Zuckerberg as well. I don't know if that's true. I don't have a problem with people using private jets, but it is a bit unethical to just print up your own money, dump it on people, and then use it to buy a private jet that you fly around on, telling people they should buy Cardano so you can dump it and buy Bitcoin with the proceeds. So if you want to make great trades like Charles Hoskinson too, and who wouldn't, it's quite easy. All you need to do is take your ADA, take your Cardano, and dump it for Bitcoin, just like Charles is proposing to do. In fact, a lot of people have been doing that for years, as you can tell from the chart. As this chart goes down, that shows Bitcoin strengthening against Cardano, and Cardano's about to hit new lows against Bitcoin. It makes sense because basically Charles is telling everyone that he's going to be betting on this chart moving down. He's going to be selling Cardano and buying Bitcoin. But when you take a look at the damage that's been done, the opportunity cost of holding Cardano instead of holding Bitcoin, it is quite brutal, just really straight down since the last bull market peak. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video, and let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.